I've always said there are three ways to enlightenment. The first way is called enlightenment through suffering, which is something happens in your life, you suffer for a long period of time, and then ultimately you come to a point in your life where you realize that, this is what I had to go through, this is why I went through that. The second is when these things are coming at you and, instead of waiting 5-10 years and going through the suffering, you begin to say to yourself, what's in it for me? But the third, and this is the one I want to speak about here, the third way to enlightenment is when you get out in front of it. And this is what I find myself doing a lot today, especially at the age of 69. And that is to play out a conversation that I'm going to have with people who are speaking in a certain way, knowing that if I were to take it this way, and I can do this all very, very quickly. I can do it within a matter of 10 or 15 seconds. I can see if I say this is what's going to happen, and then that person's going to do this, and then I'm going to lose them, and then they're going to be upset. Or if I say this, I'm going to, this is what it, or if I say nothing, and generally my response almost always is to say nothing, is to maybe make one little comment or whatever, and to practice what Lao Tzu calls non-interference. Let people have their belief systems. Don't engage if you know that engaging is, and then you can predict what, especially if you know these people, what your reaction is going to create in them, and just let it go and stay in a peaceful place throughout the whole thing and just smile inwardly as you walk away saying, well, I stayed out of that one and it's probably for the best, and at least I've still got a chance in the future maybe to help them to come around or to see things a little bit differently. But you know what, Stuart, people, they always say this, when the student is ready, the teachers appear, and if they're not ready, the teachers are always there. Right. But if they're not ready, if they're simply not ready, you're better off not trying to make them ready, because they have to evolve into their readiness. Carl Jung said that we will not, all of our significant problems, we will not solve them. We have to outgrow them. We have to outgrow them. And when people are being prejudiced, or they're being hateful, or they're finding reasons to be upset about things, they've got a lot of growing to do. And they have to do that in their own time, at their own pace. Infinite patience, says the Course in Miracles, produces immediate results. You just keep repeating that you're hearing what they're saying, but you're not letting yourself get seduced into that argumentative stance where you're now going to create enmity and bitterness, when you can just keep this all very sweet and soft, and once you're free of the need to be approved of by them, you can do anything you want with it. And that's what I would do with it. That's how I would handle it. Just let them think all of those things. And ultimately, you can't imagine how many people read Erroneous Zones back in the 70s and thought that this was just so nonsensical and this was all BS and all of that. And then 20 years later, write me these beautiful letters telling me how it completely turned their life around. And that's 20 years after it was written, because they just weren't ready for what was being written at that time, and this happens on a regular basis. And by the way, Stuart, it's probably true in your life too. Probably a lot of the things that you believe now, you thought were nonsense when you were a kid. Even prejudices, even things that I said when I always say that true nobility, it's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than you used to be. And thank God I'm better than I used to be, because there were things that I said, things that I did. I actually shoplifted when I was a kid a couple of times. I couldn't even imagine taking something that didn't belong to me today. A lot of ways that I behaved toward people, a lot of attitudes, a lot of belief systems that I had, which are totally opposite of what I have today. So you look back on your own life and you realize that. And the place to try to get to is that place where Maslow said, where you're independent of the opinions of other people, where you're not doing what you're doing because of even the outcome of it or what people might think. You're doing what you're doing because your heart tells you this is where I am. And really fearless leaders, the ones that really make an impact in the world, are the ones that are willing to take on the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. They're willing to be criticized, and to not find themselves being offended by it. Because it's very hard to fight with somebody who's not interested in fighting. It's like, and you just let them know that I'm not going to be seduced into groveling around and trying to defend myself or find fault with you or make you wrong. This is just where I come from. And but a lot of times, as I told them, a lot of times the best response is just non-interference. Just have that conversation before it takes place. Realize that if you say this is what's going to happen. Then he's going to say that. Then she's going to say this. And the whole thing's going to go in that direction. It's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be anger. There's going to be, okay, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll say, you know what? That's a good point. I'm going to really think about that. And then you've put a complete end to that. And every time they try to tell you how wrong you are or whatever, you say, well, you know what? I'll consider that because I'm open to change. I'm not attached to anything. So thank you for sharing.